Welcome back, nerds, to another episode of Judging Nerd Culture. I'm Ollie.
And I'm Jess.
And today we're talking about Supernatural.
A classic, the legend, the myth.
Yes.
I said that backwards, but you know.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at it with a 2022 retrospective look. Because there's a lot of things that probably, don't live up.
Well, I mean, a lot of shows made in that era have, it's what, 2003 when it started?
Something like that.
So, it's older.
Yeah.
I mean, 2003 does not seem like it was a long time ago, but...
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely single-digit 2000s, which is wild. And then 15 seasons. 15 years of Supernatural.
15 years of Supernatural. We recently watched a little bit of the Harry Potter reunion special, and I remember Ron, Rupert Grint, him saying that at some point, because they had been in so many of the movies, I think there's like 7 movies, right? Maybe 8 movies, 'cause I think they split the last one in half, but not the point. That he said at some point after the movies were done, and he was just out and about being Rupert Grint, he didn't know who he was because he had been Ron for so long. It's like, and Daniel Radcliffe said the same thing. Like, what were his like actual morals and beliefs? Like, they'd all been based around Harry Potter. So like, Supernatural wasn't just a bunch of movies. The Harry Potter series, they were children when they started, and then they were adults when it ended. But Supernatural lasted for 15 years, like, nonstop.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. And even, admittedly, they were grown-ass men when they started the show, so it's not like they were as impressionable as the Harry Potter cast.
Like, they still had, maybe they were still growing as people, but they had some form of, self.
100%. I feel like every time that I've gotten really into a long-standing series like Scrubs or even New Girl or whatever, the cast will always mention that at some point or another, the characters and the actors' personalities just kind of tend to blend together a little more, which, makes a lot of sense. The more you try to act naturally, the more you kind of incorporate parts of who you're pretending to be into yourself, and the more vice versa happens.
A lot of times, like in Twilight, you see, shut up. Shut up. But you see the love interests fall in love in real life. Like, they actually date. Mm-hmm. Because in the movie, you are pretending to be in love with this person for, however many years. And eventually, you catch feelings.
Yeah. When you're hanging out with half-naked hotties making out, it's like, well, all right, why not?
Anyway, I think we skipped over some stuff.
We did. But, yes, that's what we're talking about today. Not Twilight or any of the other stuff, but
not
Supernatural.
Twilight, not Harry Potter. I was using examples, okay, because it was recent.
Yep. And, but before that, just a quick notice for everybody. Got some stuff coming up in the near future. The last year was my first time doing some streams online for tabletop games. I'm going to be renewing a couple of those. There's not a specific set date, but I'll let you guys know what's going on. There's going to be 2 streams with Valorant and one with... I'm not sure I actually can talk about the other one yet.
Mysterious.
But
keep it mysterious. Keep them wanting more.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's just so you know what it's about. I'm gonna be playing a future doctor on a hellscape of a space station.
Nice.
In a capitalist shit world, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll let you guys know when and where that's gonna be in the next time I find out. But that's what is going to be going on this year for me.
Nothing's going on for me. Well, I'm just here. I'm just doing the podcast with you.
And I love it.
Thanks.
All right, are we ready to start?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, quick I mean, in case someone in the world doesn't know what the fuck Supernatural is about,
I can't imagine.
there's too much bullshit about it for it to not be at least just in the zeitgeist of common knowledge. But for the few that who don't know, Supernatural is a long-running show from CW, from the CW, in which two brothers basically go on a monster killing and hunting road trip across the country. They're not that.
Yeah.
They don't have the money to go across.
They're not that cultured.
Across the country to help their dad. The entire show, the entire premise is that they have daddy issues and they're trying to save their family. Because nothing matters more, literally at all, than family.
There's a prophecy about them.
But
that comes in much later. Much later.
Much later. But there are ghouls, zombies, monsters, demons, angels, eventually even gods, and they deal with it all as brothers. And a few other characters that matter later. But
yeah, that's about it.
So, I've been rewatching Supernatural recently. I'm up to season 6 or 7 now. I'm up to season 7 now, where the Leviathans come in. Do you remember the Leviathans?
I think so. Why don't you remind everyone?
So, right after season 6, the ending of that is essentially they beat the devil. They put him. They fixed the apocalypse. Whoop-doo! The main character Dean gets his happy ending.
Yeah, let's pause for a second. The main character is Dean.
The main character is Dean.
Like it's about the brothers, right? The Winchester brothers, Sam and Dean. But really, it's about Dean.
Dean is...
Like, Sam has, a big part in the prophecy in the end, but it's really centered around Dean. Like, if you meet a person who loves Supernatural, they're either going to tell you their favorite character is Castiel or Dean.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite characters are without a doubt Castiel, Bobby, 8% of the demons, and then Dean.
Yeah. And then every middle-aged woman is going to say Dean because he's hot and manly and, whatever.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I was trying so hard to make Sam my favorite. Because I was like, I can't like Dean. I can't favorite Dean because everybody favorites Dean. I wanted to be different. And I was like, you know what? I like Sam. I think he's cuter. I think he's cooler. He, at one point, turns into a demon. That's cool. But it's not true. He's kind of just there. Like, his character has some substance, but really he's just a whiny baby.
And here's the thing.
He's a wet noodle.
That is very true. But I think that is not that's not just the fault of the writers and the story. I think part of that is, what's his name? Jared Padalecki? Is a bad actor. Such a very bad actor. I normally don't like to rag.
We've only seen him in Supernatural. We have not watched, Texas Ranger, okay? He's only been in 2 things.
Fair. But
at least 2 well-known things.
But here's the thing about Supernatural that really lets you see a character and an actor and see their range. There was a lot of times in the show where a character gets possessed. And then their personality changes. And
I know what scene you're going to talk about.
His personality doesn't change. And
I mean, kind of.
And not in a good way.
Yeah.
So the main thing that really shows off how bad of an actor Jared Padalecki, and I hate ragging on actors because it's a hard thing to do. Acting is hard. I get it.
We're not actors. We're not successful.
I can't fucking act. I do shit. But I can still see good and bad acting. And what I saw...
Yeah, because it's not believable.
So Satan is a character in Supernatural. And he's played by a couple people, actually. But one of which, who also plays in Being Human. And I forgot the actor's name.
I don't know, but he just is Lucifer. He just is Satan.
He's so good at being Satan. Good. Everything he does is, all his mannerisms and everything is just very, well, I'm here to fuck things up, but also, I don't care about anything because I'm Satan. I'm big, evil, bad. And he makes every scene just kind of like, intimidating where he's like, well, am I going to kill you? I don't know. Would that be fun right now? Maybe next time. And that's great. That's really fun. Sam eventually gets possessed by the devil because he's supposed to be, and the guy who was beforehand disappears. And when Sam's the devil, it is so fucking boring. He is the worst Satan to ever exist.
That's because he's such a soft boy. And when I first saw Sam trying to be Lucifer, he was in a pure white suit.
Yeah.
You know, the world around them was in chaos. Everything was on fire, you know, it was a real apocalypse scenario. And he kills someone, he turns around so suave and like flips his hair a little, and it's like slicked back, and I laughed because I chuckled because it was so strange to see him that way. Which, I mean, if he had, you know, portrayed Satan in I can't say believable way, but in a cooler way, I guess, then I would have taken back my chuckle. But he didn't. Mm-hmm. It was like the character Sam was playing the character of Satan.
Yeah,
it wasn't like Satan was Sam now. It was very strange. Mm-hmm. It was like I'm being fooled right here.
Yeah, because the thing is, whenever he plays Satan, he has this like trying to be like somewhat compassionate, but like, oh, look at these little monkey people.
Yeah, he's not threatening at all.
Yeah, he's like the thing is, he should have tried to act like the guy who played Satan beforehand to try and get the mannerisms of Satan, but he didn't. He just acted like a different dude.
So it was a different Satan altogether.
It was so bad, and it's really awful because like there's other scenes where other characters switch the same role. I think the name of the character is Alistar.
Aleister Crowley?
No. Well, Crowley's in it, but there's another character named Alistar.
Crowley.
Short,
Crowley. Ball. No. I'm trying to remember how to say it. There's some sort of rhyme that you say, like if you say Crowley something Fowley. I don't know. I'm spaced out.
But yeah, there's another character named Alistar, I think, who is the lead torturer of hell, and he tortured Dean, whatever, it doesn't fucking matter. Point is, he shows up, and he is very intimidating. He's very kind of like...
And he's not Crowley?
Nope, different character.
But they're based on the same guy, maybe?
Supernatural doesn't do research.
Yeah, okay. We can tell.
But he does the cutting and the slicing and the torturing, and when he comes up to the human world and is possessing someone, he's very like, he has this very particular voice, and it's very like, I'm going to fuck with you kind of mannerisms, and it's very, very good. And he gets murdered, sort of. His vessel gets destroyed, and another person starts taking the role, and he really mirrors the same mannerisms and the same voice even so well that it's like, oh hey, those two are good actors.
Yeah.
And then you
can tell that it's the same demon or spirit in a different body.
Yeah. That doesn't happen with Sam and the devil and I wasn't going to talk about this. We were talking about other stuff.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the whole thing is about supernatural. So whatever we have to say, this is our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
True, but for me, that's enough ragging on Jared Padalecki.
Now, time to rag on Jensen Ackles. Which, I mean, let's be honest, they both only play the one character.
Yeah, but I think Jensen Ackles is a better actor because
only slightly. Because everything else I've seen him in, he's still been that like gruff, like tough, masculine dude.
But is that typecasting, or is that just him being a bad actor? It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
We'll have to see him in a role where he's like a nice guy, and then see how it feels.
Yeah, so watch him in a comedy or something. He's the love interest.
But the few times in the show that he becomes like evil, which he becomes, I don't know, like super demon for a while, and it's there's more to it.
Yeah, I think maybe that's because Jensen Ackles is really good are pretty decent at aggression.
He's real good at being angry.
Aggressive and angry. And I think that helps because when Sam was Satan, you know, he was trying to be suave and like smooth talking, charismatic Satan, but there was no threatening undertone.
No.
There was no aggression behind it at all.
He's a 7-foot tall man and you feel like you can take him.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's all over the place. You know, they had 15 years to just play around, and they did.
Yeah, they sure did. But since you brought up Jensen Ackles and Dean and how angry he gets, I think we should talk about the main thing that when you look back at Supernatural, you know, from a modern perspective, because again, I have been rewatching it, the very first thing that really jumps out at you is just, well, there's a few things, but the main one is how toxically masculine the entire fucking show is.
Yes. The beginning of this quest, of this, you know, legend that is Supernatural, I wonder if it was, you know, created from a female or male perspective at first. Because I know after a while, like, different people started to write and direct on it, produce on it. But the initial people who started it, they started the tone of the show. And I can't tell if it was a lady who was like, yeah, I like this, like, tough man who, you know, does have feelings, but, you know, he doesn't show them very much, and, like, he's so hot. Or if it was a man who was like, yeah, we're men and we're manly.
Yeah, we could probably research that, but to be honest, I don't think it matters. Because it's the end result is still characters who are just so incompetent at sharing their feelings that it bleeds into not just feelings, but like genuinely lying about what happened in the world because they don't want to admit, oh, this made me feel a certain way. And if I talk about this, I'm going to have to talk about my feelings. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
There's so many scenarios that could have been, you know, done easier or better or not even have happened if Dean would have been like, oh, hey, Sam, this is what's happening. Or Sam would have been like, hey, Dean, this is how I'm actually feeling.
Mm-hmm. But we can't blame it all on Sam and Dean. The very first character that really deserves the blame.
It's always the parents.
It's always the dad.
It's always the parents.
Because their dad, like, okay, there's a lot of things that go on in the show, but their dad, after their wife, his wife unfortunately dies, immediately makes a switch. Because you see his character in other parts of the show when he's a younger man, and he's a very like, I came back from the war, but I'm still a soft guy. I want to
very
help
optimistic.
People. And he quickly turns into I'm a man on a mission. Nothing matters except getting things done.
Yeah.
And, oh God, it's so ridiculously masculine.
Nothing is going to get in my way. Not even emotions.
It's definitely not emotions.
Turn his emotions off. Just like,
We're not talking about Vampire Diaries.
We really should.
We should do, we've talked about this before, and we should do an episode where we just compare all of the dumb Supernatural-esque shows, like Supernatural, Vampire Diaries, Lucifer,
Sabrina,
whatever else we can put in there.
Oddly enough, Archie? Or Riverdale, sorry.
Yeah, Riverdale, there we go. And, like, compare which one is the best and or worst Supernatural-esque show. Obviously, money's on Supernatural. It is its own genre.
I guess,
But Lucifer was a damn good show.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a little silly, too, though.
Oh,
There was also toxic masculinity and whininess and things that could have been avoided.
Yeah, but most of that was just Maze and Lucifer. But no, back to Supernatural. Yeah, there's this string of toxic masculinity that can be tied to the father and goes all the way through everything that Sam and Dean do. from the very beginning, he shows up as a character who literally they have to chase after because he doesn't want them in the way, because having them there is a weakness to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he cares about them, then he's not going to be able to kill the things he needs to kill. And that's more important than caring about his children.
Yep.
It's so goddamn bad.
And like his whole thing is, you know, he's killing these creatures because they caused the death of his wife and his family. You know, he's a family of hunters. You know, from a family of hunters.
No, his wife was. He was just a mook.
He's a mook. But like, if she had been alive, I feel like she would have been like, hey, so, I wasn't in the family business, and I didn't particularly want you to be in the family business. Could you maybe, could you take care of my children, please?
Yeah, it's wild. There, along with this toxic masculinity comes this complete disregard of women in the show, where her dying wish was essentially, hey, don't raise my children as hunters. And he completely ignored that.
Her literal last wish. And then his whole identity becomes, I'm a hunter.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many scenes later on. Admittedly, they become more prevalent, I think, throughout the show. Mm-hmm. But snippets of Sam and Dean's past. And you can really, like, once you see those, you're like, well, they're going to be bad. They're going to be bad people no matter what, because they really got fucked up pretty hard.
Yeah. And as they're getting older, Papa must have already known some stuff. He must have already figured out some details that would happen in 25 years, because he was constantly on Dean, like, wanting him to be the strong one, wanting him to be the fighter. You gotta protect Sam. We have to save Sam. And so, like, Dean's whole identity becomes, gotta protect my little brother. That's what I am now. I am not my own person. I am my brother's protector.
Yeah, for like 15, 20 years, his identity was not, it wasn't something he developed. It was something drilled into him. You are the defender of mostly Sam, but the human race as well. And it's
like, oh, Dad has a favorite.
And it was Sam.
It was Sam.
Oh, man. There's also this awful scene where after Dean is dying and the dad is deciding how to fix that because he doesn't want Dean to die. And Sam is there. He's like, hey, we need to do something. We have, magical potential. We know people who are shamans and this and that. We can do something about this. And the dad's like, no, just chill the fuck out. I'm dealing with it. And there's no communication about what's going on. And the dad decides to summon a demon and make a deal and trade his soul, whatever. Supernatural.
Yeah, when he very well could have done exactly what Sam said. And, taking him to the doctor or taking him to someone who could magically fix him instead of making a deal with a devil.
Yeah. And the fact that instead of saying to Sam, like, hey, I have a plan and we just need to do these things and then he'll be fine. He was like, hey, don't worry about that. Get this gun. That's more important. Do this and that. And Sam, reasonably enough, like, every time he responds to his father is very reasonable, said, fuck off, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because he 100% believed he didn't care about Dean, which makes sense.
Yeah. And it's like he also, his whole identity became protect, not my boys, protect Sam. Because even though he was going to save Dean, he didn't want Sam to be a part of it. He didn't want him to get in any potential danger. So, like, they all need therapy.
Deeply.
And he, if I saw my sister laying on the ground dying and my dad was like, oh, don't worry about it. Just, I got it. I'll deal with it. No, at least tell me what you're doing. Like, I'm going to sit here and panic the whole time and probably do something stupid.
Yeah, but that's all character decision, and they're very bad character decisions, of which obviously
are they even good characters?
No, they're bad characters. But that's part of it. Like the fact that they are such bad characters, and the way that they are bad, which mostly being their deeply set, aggressive nature towards everyone and everything around them. Like that's all based around this toxic masculinity bullshit that really emphasizes the show. And I think the part of it the part where you start noticing like how ingrained in the show it is the fact that the people who end up being right are the ones who are the most unwavering in their masculinity. The dad was right. He did the right thing. He was always right. And the kids just never understood because they never tried to understand what was going on.
But he also never tried to help them understand.
Yeah, but that's not the perspective of the show. The perspective of the show is just like, he was right because of this.
He was just trying to, save his boys and save the world.
And the fact that the person who's always right is the one who's the most, I'm sure this is right, masculinity bullshit nonsense. Because Sam constantly fucks up, and throughout the show, he's the least
least manly. Like, yeah, they're like, give him a soft hair, and like,
yeah,
he's always a pretty boy,
A big part of his thing is just like the one who cares about whether people are also feeling good or whatever.
He's more feminine.
Yeah, he a few times sees a monster and is just like, oh, excuse me. He sometimes encounters a monster and decides, I'm not going to kill it because it hasn't killed anyone.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Dean and the dad are constantly, it's a monster, got to kill it.
Yeah. Because, more than once, I believe, they've encountered creatures who just are trying to live within this human society and not be found. And, like, maybe something happens where they are found out, and then the boys try to kill him. Yeah. And it's like, he was just living in this house with his weird family trying to survive, and you kill him just because he's different than you.
Mm-hmm. And Sam's the only character for a while that ever actually brings that up. And every time there's a couple times where it's shown like, oh, he's not wrong. We have to, not everything's black, white, some things are gray. But then later on it's completely negated. There's a vampire who helps people, or who tries not to kill people, and they decide not to kill her, and they're like, you're right, Sam, sometimes we have to consider things. 2 seasons later she shows back up, she's like, I can't do this anymore, please just kill me. It's like, so he wasn't right, so none of that mattered.
Because the monsters don't change. The monsters are always monsters. They can never change. They can never be good.
Yeah. There's an episode just a little while ago that I watched in which Sam encountered a kitsune, which is so far removed from what a kitsune should be that it's whatever. Anyways, he encounters this kitsune because he saw a newspaper or whatever, and he just disappears. He doesn't tell, Dean anything. He leaves him a note that says, hey, going on a hunt, be back soon. Which Dean's upset because of... This doesn't matter. He goes...
He's always upset. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But he goes off by himself, and Dean's scared because of reasons. And it turns out that Sam went on his own because this kitsune is a character that he encountered when he was a little boy. And when she was also a little girl. And they bonded over the fact that their parents were kind of abusive drunks. Hers physically and mentally, and his mostly mentally. But still,
still effective.
Still very effective. Training your child in boot camp is still kind of physical abuse too, so I guess. But they bonded, and she killed her own mom to save him because she was going to murder him. Because apparently kitsunes in the supernatural world have to eat people's pituitary glands. Very specific. I don't know what's up with that, so but whatever. And he went on this hunt to find her because he noticed a very similar pattern from when he was a child of basically a road trip across wherever, where someone's pituitary gland kept getting ripped out, someone who didn't matter, vagabonds or bad people or whatever. And he found her, and she explained, hey, I've only killed bad people, drug dealers and this and that. The scene where you see her kill someone, well, you don't see her, but you see the person get murdered. It was a drug dealer who was like, hey, I'm dealing drugs with this girl. You don't have the money. Hey, you want to suck my dick? Basically. And she just murders him. And it's like, all right, cool. I'm glad that guy is dead. Sam shows up and immediately is like, hey, you've been killing people. And it's like, well, did any of those people not...
But he's like Batman. He just wants to put them in jail because maybe they can change. And then they always escape.
Yeah. But eventually she talks him down like, hey, I'm not a bad person. I'm not going to kill anymore. And the only reason I did it was because the way she's been surviving is eating... She's been a coroner or whatever and been eating dead people. But she also had a child, and she's been feeding him the dead people, and apparently it made him sick. Or he got sick because of whatever. It wasn't as good or whatever. And she said, I'm not going to do it anymore. He's feeling better after the last kill because she needed to eat fresh in order to get better. And Sam's like, hey, okay, I understand. Extreme circumstances. I would definitely murder people for my brother, and he has multiple times. So he runs away. He leaves, and he meets up with Dean, and they argue about whatever, and he tells him what happened. And because Dean he also picked up the tracks and was going to say he was going to go hunt her too. And he explains to Dean like, hey, I didn't kill her because of this reason. Don't do it. Let her be. And Dean agrees. He's like, yeah, okay. And of course he lied. He goes over there, he kills the mom. And the best part of this whole scene is that the kid shows up and Dean very aggressively and angrily, like kind of intimidatingly, stoops down to this tiny child. Like, hey, never kill anyone or I'm going to come back for you too. And the kid looks at him and says, the only person I'm ever going to kill is you. And Dean's like, all right, cool. Walks away. And I really wish that would come up later in the show.
Yeah, it would have been so good.
I hope that's how he dies. But anyways.
How Dean eventually dies?
Yes!
Yeah, because he killed this poor kid's mom.
Yeah, he deserves it.
She was trying to actually, like, save him just because, their unconventional ways of medicine and eating. You don't condone murder, but if the guy was, like... And the guy was just genuinely bad. Like, if he was a drug dealer and making, manipulating these people into doing awful things, into, going down this awful rabbit hole of drugs,
yeah, might as well kill that guy and save your son.
Bad. It's not like she killed, a bunch of friendly campers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she didn't kill randos. She killed evil randos.
Yeah.
Seemingly evil. Anyways, but the point is that all this happened and there's this whole arc of like Dean feeling maybe remorse, guilt, whatever. And then you get to they get to this scene where the truth comes out. Mm-hmm. And Sam becomes incredibly angry about it, obviously. But afterwards, when they finally reconcile all of that bullshit, they start talking a little bit, and Dean explains that he wasn't upset that he killed her. He wasn't feeling guilt because he murdered her. He was feeling guilt for lying to Sam, because he did not care that he killed her. He was convinced that he did the right thing. And he explained to Sam, like, hey, she was a monster, you gotta kill monsters, you were too close to the situation. And later on, after, the reconciliation and the arguing and the running away, Sam agrees with him. He's like, you were right.
It's okay to leave that child motherless.
Yeah. And it's just like it's this wild choice to always agree with the more aggressive action.
Mm-hmm. It's like if monsters, that type of monster doesn't exist in this world, we're not going to actually see a kitsune. I mean, pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, that would be pretty awesome.
Especially if it's not that version.
Yeah. Yeah. But that would be like, you go on a trip and you see a bear and you're like, oh God, that's a bear. Like, bears kill things. They kill people sometimes. They kill animals all the time to feed. But look, it's got a little cub. It doesn't matter. That, that big bear, it's a killer. So then you kill the mother bear and the cub is just left helpless and probably is going to die of cold and hunger and some other predator.
Or it grows up and
it remembers
difficult world. It gets scarred and attacked, and it somehow survives this horrible experience as a tiny little cub and grows up to be the angriest and biggest bear to ever live. And then it ruins your village. It kills you. 100%
It remembers you and it hunts you down.
Oh, yeah.
It has kept your scent your leftover wrapper, your Snickers wrapper, your tissue to keep your scent, to track you down and murder you for killing its mother. But I'm just saying that, like, they're an entirely different species. You know, they're demons, or they're some sort of creature, monster. So, like, the way they have to do things is different than us. And though that may be, you know, vampirism or eating a pituitary gland, she was doing it in a way that she felt was, you know, morally okay-ish.
Yeah, I mean, she was socially responsible. The only time she ever killed people was the fact that her son was sick. And even then it was people who were morally reprehensible in their own right. So, like, I don't know, being socially conscious and being a certain kind of whatever, I think that's not bad. That's people who get, you know, COVID, essentially, and then decide to do the right thing and stay away from people, but then realize, oh, I need to do certain things to survive. So they mask up and they go get, you know, groceries from the store because they don't have an option. They have to do certain things to live. And the only thing you can do is to take as many precautions as you can to do the things correctly. And in the show, what they are saying is, no, they were just wrong. They should have just died.
Yeah.
Like, that's a wild place to be. That's a wild stance to take.
And going back to what you said earlier about it always being the more aggressive one that is correct, yeah, it's very much like that toxic masculinity, because they're all so afraid to have any sort of, like, feeling other than aggression, because, like, you have to be more aggressive than the other person so that you can, you know, be bigger than them and to make your own choices. Otherwise, you're going to be bullied by this one. And it's like any female, quote unquote, softer, more tame emotions or feelings are always seen as like cringy and like weird.
Oh yeah, the amount of gay jokes just for, I don't know, saying you have a feeling is incredibly wild.
Like if any of them had said, you know, at any point, you know, kind of sad today, or like I'm crying. Well, don't be a girl. Like what are you? You know, like you're a man. Hunters don't cry.
Yeah, there are multiple scenes in which Sam or someone likes music that isn't 80s rock, and Dean makes a reference about them being gay for liking softer music.
Yeah.
Like
I can, in my mind's eye, hear my mind's ear. Hear Dean calling Sam like a fairy or something.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's something that character would do and say.
Which is super gross.
Yeah, and well, there's the thing though. In the world, it makes sense that they're this way, because having any feminine traits is a danger to your health.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen any females in Supernatural?
No.
They're all dead. This is a world where ladies are dead. They don't exist because they also have to be manly.
There's two rules in Supernatural. One, toxic masculinity wins the day. And two, if there's a woman, you fridge her. You fridge her good, you fridge her hard. The show starts off, the very first scene of the show is a woman being fridged. It's the mother getting killed. And then, like, minutes later, the same scene happens again with Sam's girlfriend. Not even a whole episode, and two women get fridged instantaneously.
Look at you using slang.
What?
You said fridge so many times in the past 30 seconds.
Well, that's what it's called. That's what the trope is named after.
I know.
Do you know what? Do you know what it's named after?
I don't know.
You
put dead people in a fridge.
Yeah. It comes from it was a term that was made because of a scene that happened in Green Lantern. I believe it was the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. He came home to his girlfriend, and apparently a villain had been upset with him. So he murdered the girlfriend, cut her up, and put her in the fridge. So he opens up the fridge and sees his girlfriend's head, and then has a bit of a freak out.
So you're saying it comes from DC Comics?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you have it. I don't think it's true, but I'll let you have it.
No, that is what it comes from.
Ali, there have been serial killers in the real world who have done that.
No, yeah, 100%. But the term fridging was developed because they were describing that scene in the Green Lantern comic, because it was such a highlight of the idea of killing a woman and displaying her horrible corpse just to motivate the male main character.
All right, I'll let you have it. I believe you. Enough.
You better.
Yeah, and so every female or feminine person, they either, when they show up, they're either madly in love with Dean. They become infatuated with Dean, or Sam sometimes, mainly Dean, or Dean has an interest in them, of course. So they're either in love with one of the brothers. They're either so butch, but still pretty. They're still pretty. They still have long, flowy hair. They still, they'll walk in and wow, they're still pretty. But they're like, they eat burgers and they hunt the monsters and they swear. Wow. So they're either, in love, they're butch, or they're dead.
Yeah.
And the other two, the in love and the butch, will eventually be dead.
There is, I swear to God, a 1 to 9 ratio of women to men in this show. In I think the first 6 seasons, if there was a woman in the show, she was a damsel in distress. Mm-hmm. And she either was saved by Sam and Dean and made out with one of the two, or she was killed. That was it. And then eventually you get a couple of characters who show up who are either other hunters who survive for a little while and they become part of the family, or they're evil. The women are not good characters in the show.
Oh yes, they're also demons as well.
The most female characters are demons. Mm-hmm. That's the highest concentration of female characters.
Well, you're attracted to me. You're seduced by me. I'm a demon. Mm-hmm. I'm a succubus. It's evil for you to be attracted to me. There's something evil about me because I am a lady.
100%.
I keep saying lady, but I don't mean it in the classy way. I just mean a feminine appearing person.
Like how someone would call a lady in this show.
Yeah.
This show has such very strict confines for women, where if you're not a damsel and you're not a villain, you're part of the family, but you're gonna die soon. And it's bad.
It's like in the anime, if you're a mom with a braid, you're gonna die.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, it's very clear what feminine aspects are considered good and which ones are evil. Mm-hmm. Where the kindness and compassion or whatever is a good trait. It'll get you killed, but it is a positive trait. Whereas self-reliance and confidence and sexuality are negative. Those are always evil. Mm-hmm.
But if you're moderately covered up and you're a little more aggressive like the boys, you'll live for a few episodes.
Yeah, and you can still be sexy and be very into that thing, but that's not how you act.
Yeah,
you can still
only act like that in private with one of the boys.
Yeah, you can be into Dean, but you'll, as soon as he tries something, be like, not today. You make him work for it because being promiscuous.
That's what a woman does.
They make you wait for it.
Yeah.
And oh god, they make such clear lines.
Yeah.
In what is a good and wrong, what is good and bad in terms of femininity. It's fucking ridiculous. And
so we're really ragging on Supernatural. It is fun to watch, but I mean, this is what this episode is about. It's about the things that are, looking back on it, a little outdated and problematic. Honestly, as we've been talking about it, I've been thinking about Castiel, and he dies a lot.
He dies so
much.
And
he's more on the offensive side rather than defensive. He's not as aggressive as the other guys. So I wonder if if that has some connection to the female traits, because I mean, spoiler alert, he's in love with Dean.
Deeply madly in love with Dean.
God. We're okay. So, he's in love with Dean, so that's gay. That's more feminine. He dies a lot. He's softer. Fans really like him. I don't know. It has like a weird connection there.
I think another connection to Cass and femininity in general is the fact that
Misha Collins?
Well, sure.
Well, I thought maybe that's what you were going to say, because he's like a very, like, I don't know, comfortable, cool dude.
Oh yeah, he's very publicly...
He's not like an aggressive man.
No, which I love Mitchell Collins. Great guy, great actor, great guy. But no, the idea, the trope, in which women are oftentimes, how to say, the born pretty yesterday thing.
Yeah.
Where
like bubbly, like,
well,
not very smart.
Well, not very smart, but also doesn't understand the world. Like, they're impressionable. They don't understand what's going on in a way that...
Young and innocent, sort of.
Yes, exactly. Where a tough, strong man can guide them through the world and teach them and protect them.
It's a very 40s thing.
Oh, yeah. But it's a thing. And despite the fact that Castiel is their biggest gun, like, he's the strong one because he's an angel or whatever, he's also the one that socially needs the most protecting. He turns evil for a little while because in his mind he was like, I can fix the world, I can make it better, but doesn't understand what the world means.
He's more naive, I guess.
Exactly. And that is a trait in which they definitely attribute to women. One of the biggest female characters for a while is Jo, the young, impressionable, naive daughter of a hunter who decides to join the world of hunting because she wants to be like her dad. Go figure. Because she wants Dean for some reason.
Everybody wants Dean. You're a lady, you want Dean. You're a demon, you want Sam.
True. But that was part of her character too, is she understands the world more so than Cass does, but she was naive in the sense of like what it actually takes to survive in a hunt and this and that. And that naivety is, in the long run, bad. Her the fact that she is a female means she dies in the show. And Cass also goes the same route. He eventually, that works out for him and he becomes a main set of the show. And that's funny to me too. As you watch his feminine traits reduce, he dies less often. And when does he die for the last time? When he admits his love for Dean. The ultimate death when he pronounces his gay love for Dean. The most feminine thing you can do.
He was getting tougher and more aggressive. He was becoming more like Dean and more like, that masculine stereotype. And then he finally figures out in this moment, I want to tell Dean this thing. And immediately dies.
Forever.
And this, honestly, Dean, this is why I say he's not the greatest actor, okay? Is because throughout this series, he's average. They're all pretty average, except for Misha Collins and Satan. They're phenomenal. Chef's kiss. And the new guy. I don't know his name. The guy from The New Guy.
Oh. Oh God! I just saw an episode where he was in it. I forgot what his name. What's his name? Garth, I think.
Yeah, probably.
I think he goes like Garth.
But he becomes like their Bobby, right?
For a little bit, yeah.
For a little while, anyway. But when Cass dies, I've seen this scene. I guess like I've watched this play out. It's very emotional. Castiel, you can see that he's having a lot of emotions and that the only thing he wants is for Dean to finally be happy, and like he knows that in this moment he's gonna die, so like he to save Dean, like he sacrifices himself, and in that moment he tells Dean he loves him. Like there's tears, there's feeling, there's emotion, and then when he dies, you know what Dean does? You know what Jensen Ackles does? He lays on the floor and goes, like he's confused about what just happened. He's flabbergasted. He's not sad that his friend just died. He's not, angry about, this sudden proclamation. He's just, like, I understand about being stunned. I understand, people being in shock and not knowing what to do, and, like, they act completely normal because, like, they haven't processed it yet. But it was so frustrating because you could really see, honestly, the skills between Misha Collins and Jensen Ackles. Because Misha Collins had emotions and character, and Jensen Ackles just was there for the scene.
Yeah, because in a scene where the point of the character is that they are stunned,
Mm-hmm.
like there can be a lot more that happens in the portrayal than just, I don't know what's going on, like whatever. There is a look on people, and I've seen it I've seen people act through it, in which, like, that light in your eyes, that connection with, like, what's going on just breaks. And I've seen that in a lot of very interesting movies and scenes, and that wasn't there.
Yeah, like, there wasn't even after the fact, after after Cassie, Castiel, can't talk today, after he, had died, Dean just laid there for a prolonged time, just laying there on the floor after being, pushed. But, like, he was completely blank. Like, there wasn't any emotion other than confused. There wasn't, like, any underlying sadness or, emotions of realization or anything. It was just like I don't get it. Mm-hmm. And maybe if I, had watched longer, or maybe if there had been more, Dean would have shown some sort of sadness or, like, actual, like, emotion. But part of me is like, no, he didn't. He put it in the jar, closed it tight, put a ribbon around it, sealed it with wax, buried it, and it is no longer in his universe. Like, he's got to be tough. And the fact that his best friend in the entire world just confessed his dying love to him, no, he can't deal with that. He can't handle gay. He's a strong, masculine man. Being gay is wrong because it makes you a lady, and
then you die. Yeah. No,
I know, that scene just really bothers me.
Yeah. No, I get it. There's a lot could be better in it.
I'm all hyped up now. It's just like, Cass has been with him for so many seasons and through so many things that he just... I just wish there would have been more feeling to it.
Yeah.
On Dean's side.
At that point, you have to, remember acting versus the writing. Like, was he supposed to act whatever versus having emotion?
I guess.
Like, what is the purpose of what he was supposed to do?
Yeah, because the purpose could have been confusion and shock. And then I just want him to have had feelings for once.
Yeah. And... like,
to say it back. Mm-hmm. Like, I love you. Like, he didn't have to be like, oh, I love you too, in a romantic way. He could have just been like, love you too, bro. Like, even that would have worked.
Yeah. And at that point, that is definitely a writing thing. And that goes back to, what the writers for years have shown is the right thing to do, which is hold your emotions. Yeah. And only cry when you're drinking whiskey. Yeah. And only whatever else.
Yeah.
And, it is ridiculous, truly. So, we've talked for...
yeah, we're getting close.
We're getting pretty far into it. So, for the last couple minutes, if you could remake Supernatural, what direction do you think you would take it? Because I know what I want.
Man, I obviously would have a more modern perspective of things. I mean, having the absent father kind of works, like, it gives them baggage, throughout the series. But I think I would have added more female characters that at least lasted longer, and I think I would have had more scenes where, because the whole thing about the brothers is that they love each other so much and they have such a great bond, it doesn't feel like it. No. So I think I would put more scenes in there where I don't know, like they're driving to the next town, the next state to kill a monster, and they're like bonding over music, or they're, you know, they're talking about things like about what just happened, but like with more emotion and more in-depth conversation, instead of just, oh, yep, we did that, on to the next job. What's the next job, Sam? Oh, it's this creature, you know, like, so more more feeling, honestly, more something other than just anger and aggression, and more inclusivity, I think. Like, I get it, it's the early 2000s, mid 2000s, gay jokes are abound.
Yeah, but we can have a couple gay.
Yeah, but at least have like, I mean, you had one, and it was Cass at the very end.
There was also some programmer girl, I forgot her name. She shows up pretty late.
Oh, yeah, but she's a girl.
Yeah.
That's hot, you know? Lesbians are hot, and she probably doesn't last long.
I don't remember.
So, like, it's just, I don't know, more inclusivity when it comes to females and LGBTQIAXYZ.
Yeah, maybe throw one, you know, black guy who doesn't die in there too would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but there are only a few people of color, and they
usually die.
They usually die or just like disappear.
Well, there was the FBI agent who was chasing them. He's dead. There was Rufus, also very dead. What else was there?
Point is, they need
not a lot.
Point is, they need to do a little bit better with representation and not being so aggressive. Like, it's okay for a dude to be like, nah, man, I'm kind of depressed. Like, you're my brother. We're supposed to love each other till death do us part. Like, well, seriously, like, I will, not even death do us part. I will go to hell and try to get you back. Yeah. Or I will go to hell for you. So, like, that amount of love is only shown in those actions. But in the in-between, it's like, you guys actually care about each other? Or are you just angry all the time at each other? Like, I want to see more bonding, more wholesome brotherly stuff. You can also have the aggression, and you can also have the murder and the monster hunting, but just a more bonding between Sam and Dean with, I don't know, to make a twist. Make it so Dean actually does have feelings for Cass, and that he, you know, is aggressively sleeping with a lot of women because of it. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Maybe that's too on the nose, but like, come on.
I think it's good.
Dean doesn't have a lot of character going on, so give him something.
Give him something. I like that. I think the direction, if I were to recreate Supernatural, the beginning of it, I would keep pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. That toxic masculinity, all of that bullshit, even the fridging, I think I say keep it. Mm-hmm. Because it sets a tone for what the show is at that time. Yeah. And that's perfect.
But it can grow.
Exactly. Because what I think the rest of the show should focus on is a transition, is a shedding of that masculinity. Because I think starting at the bottom and then going somewhere better should be the point of these characters. Because
they should be better than their dad, but they are the exact same.
Yes, I think the show, instead of being about them doing whatever, should be about them removing the things they learned from their dad and becoming independent people. Because they're not, and they never become really...
Yeah. 15 seasons, and they never become their own.
They're always going to end up being part of their dad. And so I think what I would want from a show, if I could remake it, would be starting off more or less the same, and then long term is a progression of them escaping the things that their dad taught them. Not even taught them, but the things that their dad kind of put on them emotionally and physically and all this stuff. And part of that can be a few things. One, a separation from the masculinity as always the positive trait, you know, some losses and some things that allow them to be like, oh, being the more aggressive one is a negative thing.
He's not always right.
Exactly. As well as more female characters in general, and also more feminine characters, not just...
They don't even have, like, like super feminine dudes, or like dudes who are not as aggressive.
So more femininity in general, and showing that is a positive thing.
Yeah, there needs to be a balance.
Exactly.
Like, people always think of feminine as like the bad thing, like that's pretty gay for a guy to be kind of feminine. There's got to be some sort of balance here, though.
So, again, the femininity, more of that joining the team, and then a dispersal of what the team is. Because for seasons and seasons and seasons, the team is 3 white guys in a car, whether it's Sam and Dean and Bobby, or Sam and Dean and Cass, or whatever. That needs to be changed. For a while, it can be Sam and Dean and Cass, but then eventually maybe Joe isn't dead and she's part of the team for real. Or maybe Sam goes off and becomes Bobby, and, you know, because he's always shown as the guy who researches things. He doesn't want to be a part of the killing. He doesn't like it.
Yeah, or maybe some lady who, or demon, whoever, joins their team. Yeah. Because having a demon or a creature join their team would be pretty cool, actually. Yeah,
that's the fourth thing that I was going to mention is...
I keep interrupting you.
You do. The fourth thing that I would want in terms of the direction of the show, if I could recreate it, is the show constantly builds up a cast of characters and then kills them off and leaves just the core. I want the opposite. I want them to, per season, amass more and more and more characters who act as an ensemble cast that can be switched in and out. You can always still have Dean and Sam kind of as the center, either one staying home being Bobby and the other one going off and doing things, you know, being the field guy, and then amassing a team around whatever situation they need and going out there, because then you can have multiple perspectives, you can have multiple cultural backgrounds, and the more important thing is you could have characters that are monsters and demons and this and that, showing like, hey, just because they're a thing doesn't mean they're fucking evil. They're a thing. That's what they are. Whatever. And having that be part of the show's direction of building a community, and further allowing the teachings of their dad to kind of go away, to understand that his idea of like, if they're a monster, they're a bad thing. Getting rid of that, and getting rid of the idea of having to be masculine to survive by having all these feminine characters show up, and having the idea of that their dad instilled them of having to be alone, because he literally pushed them away so that he could be a better hunter, and rejecting that by gathering more and more people into this community of whatever. I think that would have been the best direction for the show. I think that would have made a truly amazing show. Yeah. That could have still had so many of the same story beats, so many of the same scenes, and still just been better. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's I think that is a really good idea. I like the thought of them amassing this like little group that turns into a family, because it's their chosen family and the actual family has died or left them. And that's what a lot of people do, is that if, you know, they are not connected to their family or outside of their family, they have a group of friends that becomes their family. And adding the different monsters, like having, you know, they could have, instead of killing off the kitsune, have her join them. Because, you know, let's help you figure out a way to feed your son in a better way.
Yeah, become people who go out and find monsters who are trying to survive, and then help them survive in a way that's healthy, I suppose. Yeah. Like, that would have been an interesting direction to end up. Like, they're not just people who hunt and kill bad things. They're people who find
actually help
and support people who need that. That would have been amazing, but no, instead of, you know, whatever. Castiel can still die in the end, because his death was pretty epic.
Yeah. But I want him to say I love you before then.
Yes.
And I don't want there to have to be some sort of death scene for him to tell Dean he loves him.
But anyways, that is my dream version of Supernatural.
Yeah. You know what? Dean can even be angry about it. He can even be grossed out by it. And then Cass goes, you know, maybe Dean's not the guy I thought he was. And then he falls in love with somebody else. A monster. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
An angel and a demon. No, that's lame. An angel and some sort of monster.
That's not lame.
I know it's been done though.
Well, also it was done in the show. Cass and Meg become kind of, and I'm like all in for it.
Anyway, we have gone on for a long time. Honestly, I didn't think we would talk for this long. But
I was worried about it. I thought we were going to.
This is probably one of our longest.
For a while, yeah. All right, so that's all we were going to talk about, because otherwise it's going to go way too long.
Yes, watch us in chunks if you want.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening if you're just on the podcast. If you are, you can also find us on YouTube at Delta Crypto Productions. And if you're on the YouTube and you want to just listen over the podcast waves, any podcast app will have us. We're
desperate. Anyone who wants us.
Anyone who wants us. All right. Thanks for everything. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Love you.